I still remember the exact moment I saw the texts. It's burned into my mind like a bad tattoo I can't scrub off. I was sitting on the edge of our bed, trying to get my act together after a long week when I decided to check her phone just out of habit. I wasn't looking for anything. I do that sometimes just to see if she was hiding anything. But this time, I found more than I bargained for. The screen lit up with a string of messages between her and my brother. My brother. My own flesh and blood. They weren't just friendly, casual chats either. No, these were intimate, loaded with flirtation, plans, and promises. My stomach dropped like I'd been punched in the gut. I could feel my face go cold and hot all at once, like I'd suddenly caught a fever I couldn't shake. I kept reading. The messages detailed everything. The times they'd meet, how they'd cover their tracks, even where they'd do it. They talked about not letting me find out and how they'd keep smiling in family photos, pretending everything was perfect. That's when I saw the photos. There they were, both grinning wide, side by side in a bunch of family shots. My brother's arm around her, her hand resting on his chest, all the while planning their secret world. I'd always thought I knew them, I'd always thought I knew her. Turns out I was blind. It was a cold, rainy night outside, but my insides felt like they'd been set on fire. My hands trembled as I held her phone, caught in a web of betrayal so thick I could hardly breathe. How many nights had I missed the signs? How many times had I looked at her and felt something was off but dismissed it, because I wanted to believe in us, in her. Now I saw the truth. She'd been smiling in our wedding photos while scheming with my brother behind my back. I wanted to scream, to smash something, but I sat there, frozen, eyes glued to the screen. Every fiber of my being told me I couldn't stay silent. I had to figure out what to do next. I knew I couldn't just confront her right then. I needed to plan. But what was there to plan? How do you come back from something like this? How do you even breathe when your world has just shattered into pieces? I got up slowly, my knees weak. The apartment suddenly felt like a foreign place, cold and unrecognizable. I looked around, everything in its place, hiding the chaos inside me. I couldn't believe she'd been lying right under my nose, even with the evidence right there in black and white. I could feel my jaw tighten, and my fists clenched so tightly my knuckles went white. My mind raced with questions, anger, and a strange, bitter sense of clarity. I knew I had to hold it together, at least for now. But I also knew I'd never see her the same way again. How could I? When the woman I loved, the woman I was planning to marry, had been sneaking around with my brother, it felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I could taste the metal of my own blood, so bitter and sharp. My stomach twisted with nausea, and I had to sit down before I collapsed. As I sat there, I wondered how I'd gotten here. How did I miss all the signs? How did I not see that this perfect girl I'd trusted been planning her betrayal all along? I looked at the phone one last time, feeling an icy glow inside me. This wasn't just about cheating, it was about the ultimate betrayal, lying in the face of everything we'd built together. I knew this was a turning point, but I wasn't sure if I was strong enough yet to face what came next. I had no idea how to confront her, what to say, or even if I should say anything at all. But I did know one thing: I wasn't going to let this slide. Not without a fight. Not without making her regret every lie she told. I clenched my fists harder, feeling the ache in my palms, and made a silent vow. If she thought she could get away with this, she'd be in for a surprise. The game was on, and I was just getting started. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been run over by a truck. My mind kept circling back to those texts and photos. The betrayal burned hot in my chest. I knew I had to act, but I wasn't sure what that even looked like yet. I had a plan. Forming one that I didn't want to admit to myself just yet, but I also didn't want to let her get away with it. Not without a lesson. I decided I needed proof, something concrete. I couldn't just confront her blindly and hope she'd come clean. I wanted her to see that I knew everything, every lie, every secret, so I started digging. I went into her email, her social media, her phone backups. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed to know if there was more. I wanted a full picture, a smoking gun that would make her realize I wasn't some naive fool. That's when I uncovered more. There were secret chats on her email, plans for meetings, and even a code language they'd used to hide their intentions. I printed out the messages, feeling my heart pound in my chest as I piled them on the desk. I could feel my palms sweat and my jaw tighten with every new piece of evidence. This wasn't just a fling. It was planned, calculated, and shameless. I kept thinking about the fake smiles in those family photos, those innocent lies, while she was already making arrangements with my brother. I couldn't keep this bottled up anymore. I had to confront her, but not in the way most would expect. I wasn't just going to blow up and scream, at least not yet. I wanted control. I wanted her to see I wasn't some fool she could manipulate. So I decided to calmly, coldly lay everything out. I knew she'd try to deny, to spin it, but I'd be ready. Later that evening, I called her into the living room. She was wearing her usual bright smile, the one I now saw as a mask. I kept my tone even, controlled. "We need to talk," I said, holding up the printouts of her messages. "You know why I'm here." She froze for a moment, then forced a laugh, trying to brush it off. "What's going on? What's all this?" I stepped closer, my voice low and steady. "This is what's going on. You and my brother planning, sneaking around. You've been lying to me this whole time." Her face went pale, and her eyes darted around like a child caught with her hand in the cookie jar. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, voice trembling. "Oh, come on," I said. "Don't insult my intelligence. I saw the texts, the photos, the plans. I know everything. How long has this been going on?" She looked like she was about to cry, but I didn't care. I'd already been hurt enough. "You think I'd do something like that?" she whispered, voice barely audible. I shook my head, feeling my fists clench. "Save it. I don't want to hear your lies anymore. I've had enough. But I'm not just walking away. I've got a plan for how this ends." Her eyes widened, suspicion flickering. "What are you talking about?" "You'll find out," I said. "But trust me, you won't like it, because I'm done being the fool. You want to play manipulative games, fine, but I'm about to turn the tables." I didn't give her time to respond. Instead, I left the room, my mind already racing with ideas. I knew I needed someone to help me, someone who'd give me the edge I needed, someone who'd understand. I wasn't about to let her walk away unscathed, not after everything. That night, I started setting my plan in motion. I knew I'd need to be sneaky, precise. I had everything I needed to make her see that I wasn't just going to take this lying down. The worst part was I'd never done anything like this before, but I was tired of being the victim. From now on, I was the one in control. As I lay in bed, I could feel my stomach tighten, a mixture of adrenaline and raw anger. I had to get this right. Because once I pulled the trigger on my plan, there'd be no going back. And honestly, I was kind of looking forward to watching her squirm. That's what revenge was supposed to feel like, right? Sweet and satisfying. I was ready for that. The next few days were a blur of planning and collecting. Every moment I wasn't at work or pretending to be normal, I was piecing together the next move. I had to be meticulous. If I messed this up, I'd lose any chance of making her see what she'd done. I knew I had to hit her where it hurt, not physically, but emotionally, psychologically. That's what revenge was about, right? Making her feel the betrayal as acutely as I did inside. I spent hours setting up a fake email account, something untraceable, just to send her a message. I wanted her to know I was watching, aware, and not going to let her get away with it. I drafted the message carefully, making it cold and calculated. I didn't want to sound desperate or angry. I wanted her to realize that I knew everything and that I was in control now. I also had to be careful not to tip off my brother. I didn't want him to catch wind of what I was doing until it was too late. I knew I'd have to handle him differently if I ever wanted a shot at justice. Right now, my focus was her, because she was the one who'd broken me, who'd broken us. One evening, I sat her down again, this time with a different tone, calmer, more deliberate. I slid the phone over to her, the fake email account details displayed on the screen. "You've been caught," I said quietly, watching her eyes flicker with panic. "And I don't plan on letting this slide." She looked like she wanted to say something, to deny again, but I cut her off. "No more lies. I already know everything. And if you think you can just sweep this under the rug, you're dead wrong." Her hands trembled as she reached for the phone, her face pale. "You don't understand. It's not what it looks like," she whispered. "Oh, I think I understand perfectly," I said. "And now I want you to understand something else. This isn't just about cheating. It's about respect, honesty. You crossed a line I can't ignore." She looked at me, eyes glossy with tears. "Please, I didn't mean for it to get so out of control. It was a mistake, just a stupid mistake." I shook my head. "You don't get to call it a mistake, Not after the planning, the lies, the fake smiles. You thought you could hide this forever, but I found out. And now I'm going to make sure you regret it. I pulled out an envelope from my pocket, one I'd prepared earlier. Inside was a copy of the texts, the photos, everything I'd gathered. I slid it across the table to her. This is what I'm going to show your family, because they need to know the kind of person you really are. Her eyes widened even more. You wouldn't do that. Oh, I already am, I said, voice sharp. Consider this my way of ending this charade, and trust me, I have no intention of ever forgiving you, not after this. That night I sent the email from the fake account with a simple message. You're not who I thought you were. Then I attached everything, screenshots, photos, evidence. I knew it would cause chaos, but honestly, I didn't care. They'd all see her true face soon enough. I felt a strange mixture of relief and dread as I finally pressed send. Relief, because I'd taken back some control. Dread, because I knew this was just the beginning of the fallout. I also knew that confronting her with the evidence would change everything between us forever. The silence afterward was deafening. I waited for her reaction, but she didn't say anything right away. Just stared at the screen, her face a mask of shock and guilt. I saw her swallow hard, her chest rising and falling faster than normal. That was when I realized I'd pushed her into a corner she couldn't escape, and I was ready to see what she'd do next. The fallout was immediate and messy. The next morning she came into the living room looking like she'd been run over, eyes red, face swollen, trembling like a leaf in a storm. I could see her trying to hold it together, but her hands shook as she clutched a tissue. There was a silence heavy enough to drown in. Finally, she broke. How did you find out? She whispered, voice cracked and wavering. I kept my tone even, almost clinical. I found the texts, the photos, the plans. You really thought I wouldn't see through your lies. She sank onto the sofa, tears streaming down her face now. I didn't mean for it to get this far. It was stupid and impulsive. I was lonely, and your brother, I didn't think. I didn't think I'd get caught. I felt my stomach knot tighter. You didn't think, you planned it, didn't you? You smiled in our wedding photos while scheming behind my back. That's not something you stumble into, that's calculated. How long were you two like this? She looked away, embarrassed, ashamed. Few months, maybe longer. I don't know, it just happened. I didn't want to hurt you, I swear I didn't. That was the part that made my blood boil, the way she said it like it was some innocent mistake, like she didn't know what she was doing. I clenched my fists so hard I thought I'd break my own fingers. You lied to me every day, I said, voice tight. You lied in our photos, in our vows. Do you even understand how much you've destroyed? She looked up at me now, eyes glassy and pleading. Please, I love you. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was stupid. I was weak. I was wrong. I took a deep breath, feeling every ounce of frustration and heartbreak boil over. Love? No, love doesn't cheat. Love doesn't plan to betray someone in the most disgusting way possible. You want to fix this, fine, but it's going to cost you. I pulled out the envelope I'd prepared, everything neatly laid out, undeniable. Her eyes widened as she saw the evidence. You're exposing us. Yeah, I said coldly, because I don't want to be the fool anymore. I want the truth out there. Maybe then you'll understand what you've done. Her hand trembled as she reached for it, but I pulled it away. This isn't about revenge for revenge's sake, I said. This is about making sure you never do something like this again. And I'm not going to sit around pretending everything's fine, because it's not anymore. I decided that I'd give her a day, just one, to think about what she'd done, to realize the weight of her betrayal. After that, the real consequences would start. I wasn't going to be a victim anymore. I was done playing nice. Standing up, I looked her in the eye. You're going to tell your family everything, or I will, and I'll make sure they see you for who you really are. I turned to leave, feeling the sick weight of her gaze on my back. Before I closed the door, I said one last thing. You want to fix this? Show me that you're willing to face the consequences, because I sure as hell am. Walking out, I felt a strange sense of clarity, like I'd finally taken control. After months of feeling powerless, whatever came next, I knew I'd made the decision to end this, to cut the cancer out of my life, and I'd do it on my terms. That, I realized, was the real revenge. The next day I waited, knowing she'd have her moment of panic or remorse. I didn't want to be there when she made her move. No, I wanted her to stew, to realize what she'd lost. I kept myself busy, but the anticipation gnawed at me. Every time my phone buzzed, I wondered if she'd finally come clean or if she'd try to spin her way out of this mess. By late afternoon, she finally called. Her voice was shaky, trembling with guilt and fear. "I've told my parents," she said softly. "They're coming over. I want to talk to you. Please, can we just have a sit-down?" I hesitated for a second, then nodded. "Fine, but understand this. You're not getting out of this without facing everything I've uncovered." When she arrived, her face was streaked with tears, but she kept her composure. Her parents came shortly after, wary and silent, waiting for her to speak. I stood there feeling the weight of the room pressing down on me, all the evidence laid out in my mind. She took a deep breath and looked at her parents. "I messed up," she started, voice trembling. "I was unfaithful, I lied, I betrayed my vows, and I hurt everyone I love. I was weak, stupid, and I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want to be honest now." Her parents looked stunned, exchanging glances. Her mother's hand went to her mouth while her father's jaw clenched. They were angry, disappointed, maybe even betrayed in a way I'd never seen before. I felt a flicker of satisfaction, knowing they were about to see her for what she truly was. I stepped forward, pulling out the envelope with the evidence. "This is what I found," I said, voice steady. "Every message, every plan, every lie. She thought she could hide it, but I uncovered everything. I wanted her to be honest, and I wanted all of us to face the truth." Her mother looked devastated, tears streaming down her face. "How could you?" she whispered, voice trembling. "How could you do this to our family?" Her father looked furious, eyes blazing. "This is unforgivable. I don't know what to say." Her daughter, my wife, buried her face in her hands. "I'm so sorry," she cried. "I never meant for it to go this far. I was weak and I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to make it right somehow." I stood there feeling a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd taken the first step, I'd exposed her. Now I had to decide what came next. I knew this was her moment of reckoning, and I wasn't going to be the one to give her a free pass. The decision was in their hands now. Her mother looked at her, then at me, tears still falling. "You've broken us," she said softly, "and I don't know if we can recover from this, but I do know one thing: your actions have consequences." As the evening wore on, I realized that I'd done what I could. I handed over the evidence, the truth laid bare. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice, about ending a chapter I never wanted to open. I knew I had to walk away now, no matter how much it hurt. Later that night, I packed a bag, ready to leave. The house felt colder, emptier without her presence. I looked at the keys on the table, her keys, my keys, and finally made the decision. I picked them up, felt the weight in my hand, and knew what I was about to do. I took a deep breath, then walked out the door. As I closed it behind me, I left her standing there, a woman I no longer recognized. I knew I'd never forget, but I also knew I was finally reclaiming my life. Sometimes the only way to heal is to cut out the poison, and that's exactly what I was doing. The house was silent as I locked the door behind me, the weight of everything finally sinking in. My chest felt tight, and for a moment I just stood there, listening to the echoes of what I'd done. I knew I wouldn't look back, not today, not ever. I'd handed her the evidence, severed the ties, and walked away. It was over, or at least that's what I kept telling myself. I drove away with the windows down, the cold air hitting my face, trying to clear the fog in my mind. My hands still felt clammy, my stomach twisted in a strange mix of relief and loss. I'd taken the decisive step, cut out the toxic part of my life, and reclaimed what little dignity I had left. But damn, it still hurt. Knowing someone you loved, someone you trusted with your whole heart, had betrayed you so thoroughly, that's a wound that doesn't close overnight. The fallout was swift. Her family cut ties for a while, stunned and betrayed just as I'd expected. I heard through a mutual friend that she was trying to reach out, to say she was sorry, to plead for forgiveness, but I wasn't interested. I'd done what I needed, exposed her, walked away, and refused to be part of the wreckage anymore. My goal was simple: get out, heal, and rebuild. In the weeks that followed, I started to piece my life back together. I stopped obsessing over her, over the betrayal. Instead, I focused on myself. I threw myself into work, reconnected with friends I'd ignored, and even started seeing a therapist, someone to help me process what I'd been through. It was slow, but every day I felt a little stronger, a little more in control. Looking back, I realized how much I'd trusted, how much I'd loved her, and how blindly I'd believed in the image we'd built. Now I saw everything clearly. Love isn't enough when betrayal is lurking behind every smile. You have to trust your gut, listen to the red flags, and never let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. To anyone reading this, I'll say this. If you're ever in a place where you find evidence of betrayal, don't hesitate. Be brave. Sometimes, confronting the truth is the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it's also the only way to take back your life. You don't owe anyone your silence or forgiveness if they've broken your trust in such a fundamental way. And for myself, I know now that revenge isn't about getting even or hurting back. It's about reclaiming your dignity, standing up for your self-respect, and making damn sure the other person feels the weight of what they've done. That's what I did, and I've never felt more alive, more in control of my own story. In the end, I left the keys on the table, packed what little I needed, and moved forward. I didn't look back because I knew that's not how you heal. You walk away from the chaos, from the lies, from the heartbreak, and you build something better from the ashes. That's what I did. And if there's one thing I can tell you for sure, it's this: don't be afraid to walk away. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is close the door on the past and never look back. You owe it to yourself to find happiness, and no betrayal can take that away from you unless you let it.